Have you had your morning SQUAW-fi? Today's morning SQUAW-fi is brought to you by Kate Surridge. Bullying is, by definition, a repeatable offense. Harassing somebody one-off isn't necessarily bullying. Bullying has to be a pattern. You're talking about minors versus adults. Physical violence versus verbal assault. Online versus offline. Real world. I don't know if we could get into online versus real world interaction because that's a little tougher. Adults that are harassing adults or assaulting adults, that can be handled as a legal matter. Legal adults, so talking about people who are 18 or older, they need to know that when they turn 18, their actions are prosecutable. They need to know that their actions have consequences. The sooner you and your peers speak up about this pattern called bullying, the sooner those real life consequences can take hold, no matter what their class or circumstance. Now, you just want to be able to nail them down, especially if we're talking about a legal adult bullying a minor. It's overwhelming, it's hard, but you have people around you who love you that will go to bat for you and that will support you when you do report things to the police. You got to go to the hospital, you got to take pictures, you got to, depending on how severe this thing is, you've got to take the steps. And I know it's hard. You think that, why should I deal with this? But you gotta. I mean, for the sake of not only yourself, but for other people. All this bully needs is somebody to realize what the consequences are of their actions. When it comes to children bullying children, minors bullying minors, all children are more or less in Western countries required to go to school. If you go to the same school, obviously the principal can deal out punishments accordingly. We're talking about suspensions, detentions, and expulsion needs to be on the table. Their parents will have to deal with all that. It's going to be on their record. It may be on their permanent record. They may go to juvenile detention if you just speak up. The problem is that I've been seeing that the system, I don't know if it's your province or your county, but schools are having such a hard time. They're not doing any investigations, creating programs. So what you need to do at this point is find peers that are suffering under the same circumstances. Use the internet to get to your peers. Talk to parents. Go to parent-teacher functions. You're going to have to, on an active level, try to find out who to speak to in these circumstances. Make a sign. You have to basically get together and at least start the conversation to see if, just amongst parents or just amongst teachers and parents, get the ball rolling and then just create a grassroots kind of movement where we're having a conversation about this. And once we start having the conversation and enough people are talking about it, we can maybe put pressure on the administration or give them ideas on how to basically deal with this, or support in terms of leveraging the school's capabilities to enforce some sort of punishment. As much as I want to talk about the underlying reasons for bullies and bullying, there's not enough time. We do have to protect the people who are being bullied. That's our primary concern. It doesn't mean that we don't figure out the underpinnings of why bullies emerge. It's our hormones going into overdrive. It's a biological imperative to try to assert dominance and breed selection and all that stuff. I can't get into mechanics now, but we have to understand that. We also have to find a way to confront bullies in order to get the behavior to stop, and then figure out the triggers or the mechanisms that are causing these problems to emerge. Once we can get it to stop, we can start dealing with the problem. Now, if that ultimately leads to suspensions and expulsions, so be it. And again, if we're talking about adults, we're talking about prosecutions. We're talking about jail time. We're talking about a day in court. We're talking about damages. We're talking about hospital bills being repaid, restitution. There's no excuse for an adult to bully a minor. That's pain and suffering to not only the child, but the family. I hope we've somewhat answered your question, or at least shown that we're in your corner. And we can definitely continue the conversation in the comments. With that being said, take care, and hopefully we can lay some groundwork and a support system so that we can have these conversations more often.
What's going on, everybody? This is Chris from BMNY. I did some research. A lot of the studies say that bullies, or people who are bullying, were raised in a authoritarian parents. These parents relied on punishment of their children. That's how they were, disciplined. If you did something wrong in school, if you did something wrong with your friends, if you did something wrong at any point in time, you were disciplined. And whether that discipline was you got to mow the lawn, and I'm sure a lot of people grew up that way, getting disciplined by their parents. By punishing a bully, it tends to lead to them being more aggressive and more hurtful. I don't know if I can 100% agree. From my perspective, with law enforcement and even working at the hospital, you do something wrong and there are repercussions. I agree that they should be structure to them. If you assault someone, we're not going to come and assault you. You'll be arrested, be brought to court, and you'll have to either do time, pay a fine, community service, whatever. As far as repeat offenders and bullying, especially in children, I think you have to look at their social environment, their parents, how they're being raised and brought up, and you need to kind of restructure that family environment, that social environment. Most bullies have been bullied themselves, so it becomes a learned kind of social pattern. Everyone can relearn habits through structure and discipline. There's broken people all over the place, and broken people can be fixed. I see it happen daily, but they have to want to have that structure and that discipline and to be able to fix themselves. That's the bigger issue, is the person wanting to fix themselves. Do I think that a repeat offender, someone who has constantly done bullying and their aggression has escalated, then that's a different issue. That's someone who's not learning from their behaviors through the discipline and punishment, and that's probably someone who's going to be a bigger issue to society later on in life, and will probably end up going through the court system. As far as online, there's not much that you can really do. Nowadays, you can send a complaint in. You were attacked online by this person, whatever social media platform or whatever you're using, and you let them kind of deal with it. You take screenshots and you can do whatever and submit them. And then, unfortunately, you're kind of like waiting for this platform to decide whether they want to block a person, ban a person, or whatnot. Obviously, if it's someone you know directly, then you have to go to the next step. You get the law involved, and you have to let basically the law dictate how this person is going to be reprimanded. When I was growing up, I was a 6th grader, bullied by an 8th grader. I was pretty much threatened and challenged by this 8th grader. Didn't like me. I didn't even know the guy. So it came down to the fact that it was like, okay, well, let's settle this the old-fashioned way. Meet you this time at this place, and we'll take care of it. We ended up meeting at the the boys' bathroom, fist fight, and from that day on, he never messed with me ever again. Am I saying to go out there and beat the piss out of your bullies? No. Don't be afraid to shove back, and you can shove back in different ways. You don't have to fight. Now there are many more avenues to take in order to retaliate. I hope this is helpful. It's not right. No kid should have to go through this, and no parent should have to watch their kid go through this either. So that being said, peace out, everybody. Love you guys.
This is something I definitely have strong opinions about. My opinions are not always agreed with. I think I look at the bullying issue from a lot of different angles. I've known people who bully others. I know people who get bullied. My brother was one of them in high school, and the person he actually got bullied by was my boyfriend's nephew at the time. More often than not, someone who is bullying others has far more problems going on probably at home than anybody even knows about. These people go online and they make these alternate identities because more often than not they hate themselves. And I think a lot of people will seek out what they despise about themselves in other people, and they will take that out on other people instead of addressing the problem and feeling better and more confident in themselves. It's absolutely wrong, obviously. The other part of that is asking for help, and that is really, really, really hard to do. First of all, you have to admit you need help, which is an incredible feat in itself. And then being able to reach out and ask for it can be just as hard as admitting you need it. I've been there myself. I will be the first person to tell you, we're not going to get anywhere in life alone. We need friends and family, our tribe, to surround us and support us and get us through anything in life. And I will also be the first person who will never ask for help when she needs it. I will stretch myself so thin. I try my hardest to recognize the signs. If I see a friend in distress, I'll try and reach out and just say, hey, how's it going? You know, you need to talk about anything? You know, something like that. A lot of times there's problems at home and people are misplacing their anger. That's one scenario. Another scenario is people are just fucking evil. And that's the truth. Some people are just evil.